Mahindra. Very warm welcome, Dr. Shankar. With leadership in technology innovation for automotive and farm services business, Dr. Shankar's expertise is in international patents and new product innovation, and he provides a valuable perspective on the road ahead in the automotive industry. Very warm welcome, Dr. Venugopal Shankar. The speakers for this session are going to be Mr. Balwant Rawat, Head IP, Mercedes-Benz India. His role in intellectual property, strategic technology intelligence, and innovation management at Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India contributes insights into IP strategy and innovation in the automotive industry. Very warm welcome, Mr. Rawat. Also joining me in this session is Mr. Jegannathan S, Deputy General Manager, IPR Lead, Tata Motors. Very warm welcome to you, sir. So as Deputy General Manager and IPR Lead at Tata Motors, Mr. Jegannathan S brings insights into IP challenges specifically to the automotive industry. And we'd like also to welcome Mr. Balasubramanian L, Deputy General Manager, IP Management, Sun Mobility. His role in IP and standards function at Sun Mobility with expertise in analytics, strategy, and commercialization adds a unique perspective on IP challenges in the automotive industry. Very warm welcome to you, sir. Also joining me in this session is Mr. M.S. Bharath, Founder, Managing Partner, Kria Law. His role as a prominent Indian IP lawyer and litigator, along with his involvement in international IP organizations, brings a legal and strategic viewpoint. Very warm welcome to you, sir, as well. And we are joined in by Mr. Nikhil Dattawadkar, IP Strategist and Manager at Bajaj Auto. He's a professional with a diverse background in innovation and IPR across multiple technology domains and has hand-on experience in drafting and managing patent application globally. So let us begin the program. I'd request the moderator for this session, Dr. Venugopal Shankar, to please take over and begin the session. Over to you, sir.
Very good morning, friends. Very happy to be here. And our panel is going to talk about one of the most interesting and important topics, which is all about what are the IP challenges that are emerging, specifically in the automotive industry. And this topic is interesting for multiple reasons. And the way we are going to do is we'll have a first quick round of introduction, where while we introduce ourselves, we'll also say what is in our mind the biggest IP challenge out there, because all of us come from different backgrounds and we'll definitely have different perspectives. So we'll have that in the first round. You'll hear what are those real critical challenges out there. The second round is what is going to be very useful for you, which is we'll share at least one thing that really worked out well for us, so that you can also go ahead and pick it up and put it to practice in your own space. So in this 40 minutes, this is how we thought we could structure the discussion. I'll just take a couple of minutes to set the background for this. When we talk about challenges, there has never been a time when there are no challenges. So IP challenges is not something new. But the context of the discussion today, especially for the automotive industry, is something very, very specific. We are looking at multiple disruptions. When we talk about the transition to the EV, it's not just an electric car. This electric car will also be a connected car. It will have certain levels of autonomy built into it. And many of these cars could be shared cars. It need not be individually owned car. And we thought that electric transition itself may take some time. We thought at least 5 to 10 years. But that's not true. It's here and now. And all of us OEMs have big plans on EVs, and we have a pipeline of new electric vehicle products already announced. We are all actively working on that. So it's here and now. But the next big thing is what we look at as software-defined vehicles. The way software plays a key enabling role in your smartphones, you'll see the same thing happening in your vehicles too. You and I may have an electric vehicle with essentially the same hardware. It could be the same battery pack and same motor, But depending on the kind of software and apps that you use, you may be getting a much superior performance than mine. So software could become a differentiator going forward. So there are a lot of interesting disruptions that's happening. So technology convergence is definitely something which is going to make the way we create IP, the way we handle IP in a very, very different way. So we are looking at multiple technologies, each of them growing very fast. Some of them are doubling in 18 months. Some of them are doubling in 12 months and 6 months. That's the pace at which technology is growing. So here we are talking about filing new ideas and trying to protect them. When the technology itself is changing so fast, if it's going to take 3 years or 5 years to protect them, that doesn't make sense. Because the technology itself will become obsolete by the time you protect it. So a lot of things are going to change when you look at a technology convergence, especially in an exponential world. Second point is, there is a convergence of industries also. It's not just convergence of technology. When I say the mobility industry, it's the traditional automotive industry, then you have the infrastructure, and then the energy and power. All three industries coming together. Infrastructure, you can't think of electric cars without the charging infrastructure, especially fast charging. And if you are connecting your car for charging, and that's getting electricity from by burning fossil fuels, then electric doesn't make sense. It has to be from renewables, so it has to be clean electricity. So suddenly we are looking at the convergence of three big industries. Each of them is big by itself. So automotive, energy and power, and also the infrastructure. So we are looking at technology convergence and convergence of industry. Last but not the least, two very different industries, the auto and the tech, they both are coming together when you're talking about building products which are electric, autonomous and connected. These two worlds are so very different in terms of the pace at which we work, the kind of practices we have, the way we collaborate, the kind of IP that we create and manage, everything is very different. But suddenly these two industries are going to come together right from conception to getting the product out, because the hardware, the software architecture, they have to be in sync, they have to be co-evolved. So all kinds of these interesting developments are happening around us as we sit here for a panel discussion on what are the key challenges that we should prepare ourselves to face when we get into this space. The good thing that's going to come out of it is the final product is going to make mobility very, very sustainable. So it's going to have a very big positive impact on the environment if you are able to crack this. Second big advantage is, if we do this in India, we'll be able to take this solution across different parts of the globe. So this is truly a global opportunity for companies in India, because electric mobility is not just for Indian markets, it's for global markets. So that's a kind of opportunity that we are looking at. Actually, it's important for us to be proactive in approaching some of the challenges around this. This becomes very important. So I have a very, very nice panel of experts across industry and law firms. So this is going to be a very insightful 40 minutes that we promised to you today. So let's have a quick round of introductions. Each of them will take 2 to 3 minutes to introduce themselves and tell what is that one big IP challenge that's on their mind. Sure. So I will start it with my friend Balwant here.
So thank you, Shankar. So I represent Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India, which has engineering presence in India. And we are not catering just for India market, but also for the global markets with over 10,000 engineers. And these engineers are not just mechanical, these are electronics engineers, these are software engineers, which we have seen it grow in the last 10 years or so, almost doubled. So that is also a big thing. Because when we talk about IP now, we are talking about global IP, right? Not just for India market, but also for the world. Because automotive industry overall, it's increasing. And as Shankar pointed out, it's a disruption that it's going through because of convergence of technologies, right? So when we talk about IP challenges, we are looking at IP in India for the world, right? So, or IP being generated out of India, right, in the Indian context. And as we have seen, the engineers which are working, which are creating those technologies, those are anyways getting disrupted. But I'm here to talk about from an IP perspective, because I lead that in-house IP team. So what are the challenges we see and in what ways we are contributing? So in the first round, I will talk mostly about the challenges in the IP creation. Now with the convergence, it has opened up a lot of gates of the combinations where a lot of innovations are possible. And innovation is possible only when, because it's like more coming as an interdisciplinary, also because of the disruptions that is happening. So the way IP team is working before and now, it is completely different, because you are no longer an automotive engineer or an IP person who is specialized into the automotive side. We are looking at an IP person who are able to identify the trends from different industries and all together, right? So there, the biggest challenge is, as we see, as we work with the R&D engineers, is that there is a lot of pressure to deliver because of the increased competition. Let's say you talk about EV, now it's industry is shifting. A lot of challenges coming also from the Chinese players, as we see, right? Then the software-defined vehicles, where suddenly I think a lot of big companies have decided that they will create that software in-house to control the nervous system of the vehicle, right? That's the brains. It's not something that you just take up from one supplier and then you do that. Because to integrate, it's better that you have your own architecture, software-defined architecture for which to do that. And that means that a lot of software that needs to be developed, we are doing it in-house. So software, and which was not the core of an automotive company, right? It's a new thing. So still there are learning, and a lot of hiring has happened from the tech players which are doing it in-house, right, globally. And doing it, implementing it within the car, with so many sensors in a complex infrastructure system, and you need to be really 100% safe, right? It's not a typical software industry that there are bugs which you can roll out in the next release, right? Because of the safety, because of the regulations, it has become increasingly complex, time-consuming, and not like a typical software development cycle, right? So because of this new environment, we have seen the engineers really slogging it out, at least in our company, where we don't know how much complex it will become, like, right? So, and now, when engineers are busy in the day-to-day delivery for today's challenges, we are talking about creating IP for tomorrow's challenges, right? So there, the bandwidth is limited, the resources are limited. So what would be the impactful IP that we can create now, right? Getting that time from the engineers, it's a big challenge. And from an IP professional, as we see the industry looking at, because there is a certain advantage that the tech companies have, right? Because of the tech IP that they have, and now they are intersecting into the automotive domain. From automotive companies, whether it's OEMs or whether it's suppliers, it's in their business interest that they also have their share of the IP that gets generated. Otherwise, it becomes like a one-way street, and we are just paying the point. And already the margins are thin in automotive industry, right? We have seen that. So bulk of the licensing that we see, bulk of the revenues or the margins will be defined by how much of the innovations are going on, which is in the software space, which is on the electronic space, right? So the IP royalties that any company will need to pay, we believe that it will come from that tech side, because that's where the bulk of the IP is, right? And you don't need to really share, put that. So that becomes an important challenge, that in the automotive industry, from an IP perspective, how do we channelize the engineers to create new IP? That will mean that identifying which problems to focus on for tomorrow's challenges. And that's where IP person needs to provide an guidance. It's not a reactive thing, but more of a proactive thing. But it's a big challenge, because it's going to be complex in creating the right IP right now.
Thanks, Balwant. I think IP creation is where the whole story begins. Actually, everything comes much later. So thanks for bringing up this important area. How different it's going to be when it comes to spotting those ideas which have to be protected in your organization. Especially, see, IP person in auto company is familiar with all the auto kind of IP. Typically, most of them were hardware related. An IP person in a tech company would be familiar with all the software related IP. But today, now we are talking about a hybrid IP person who should be able to do justice to both. And also look at those synergistic opportunities which could be at the interface of hardware and software. It's going to be, the IP person will play a very key role going forward to make this transition very smooth. Now we have Mr. Jegannathan from Tata Motors who has joined us here.
Am I audible? Yes. Thank you. So, thank you very much for such a interesting topic, and thank you, Dr. Shankar, for establishing the context in a very succinct and beautiful manner. So, I'll give a brief introduction about myself. I am Jegannathan. I am working with Tata Motors as IPR Lead. I have a fair bit of experience in IP mining, drafting, prosecution, and managing patents fairly end-to-end. So now, my 2 cents on this particular topic. Personally, I think automotive industry is at sort of a crossroads. The reason I say that is, the challenges that automotive industry is facing today is nothing like it was facing, let's say, some 5 or 10 years ago. Now, like Dr. Shankar mentioned and Mr. Balwant also mentioned, there is a lot of software that is getting involved in the vehicles, and increasingly so in the coming years it will happen even more. So there are even talks of cars and vehicles in general being called as software on wheels. While we in the automotive background may not like to the vehicles to be oversimplified as smartphones on wheels, because it is much more than that. But that is the kind of vibe, or that is the kind of talk that is going on, and there is a little bit of premise to that also. Now what we see, the emerging technology, that was briefly touched upon, be it electric vehicles, or let's say connected cars, or let's say ADAS, automated advanced driver assistance systems, or anything, vehicle to vehicle communication, vehicle V2X kind of communication. Essentially, one connecting thread I see among all of them is automotive industry is no longer going to operate in silos, right? It is going to have more exposure to players from, let's say, high-tech domain. There are going to be involvement of electronics players, there are going to be involvement of software players, there are going to be involvement of communication players. So everyone gets into the automotive domain. So the number of players who are going to be in the IP domain of automotive industry, it is increasing multifold. So it is like, to some extent we can say the playing field has been opened up to many people. It is like, if I may use the term, it is like a liberalization of the automotive IP field to multiple players. We see, so many patents coming in from people from different domains coming into this particular domain. Yesterday there was a talk of SEPs and the FRAND, and 5 or 10 years ago, had the session been there, the talk would have been about smartphone makers, and we would not have expected much more. Then there was a talk of, how vehicles are becoming implementers, the cars are becoming implementers. That was, probably previously unimagined, and that is happening today, because there is more exposure of other high-tech players into this domain. And that sort of makes the mix a little more challenging, it makes the mix a little more dynamic. So typically, automotive industry, to some extent we could say globally and more so in India, it has been a little more or less sober, right? The IP industry has more or less become stable, barring a few major disputes here and there. It has more or less, people have looked at their portfolios in a defensive manner, they protected their IPs and they sort of moved on with it. But now with the exposure to high-tech players into this domain, it is not going to be the same, because most of these players, they are known to, be active in terms of their IP, be it monetizing, be it enforcing. So that is the kind of play we will be seeing in automotive industry, and very soon also. So it will no longer be come up with an invention, file for an IPR, rest on it. Now, there are going to be players from other industries, they will say, you have patents which are in my domain and you will have to do something about it. So that way, the pot has started boiling, and everyone in the IP industry, they have sort of, in the automotive industry specifically, they have to be on their toes and actively manage their portfolio, look at various options of risk mitigation, and it is no longer just a number game where, the boardroom is not going, it's not just going to be talking about the number of IPRs we filed in this year. There are going to be a lot more topics about IPR that is going to be discussed, and in the very near future, we are going to be seeing that. So that is my personal take on the IP front.
Thanks, Jegannathan. I think you brought some of the important aspects. And one of the points that you mentioned about the standard essential patents in France, we'll definitely cover that in the discussion today. Thanks for highlighting that. Now, we will go to Mr. Balasubramanian from Sun Mobility, who's with us here. Yeah, Bala.
Hello, thanks for this opportunity. I'm Balasubramanian and I'm heading the IP and standard functions for Sun Mobility. Just to give a brief about Sun Mobility, we are into the battery swapping mobility services for the electric vehicles. Just to take the points from our fellow panelists, we have a team of close to 300 odd people, of which you see 70% of them are from software background. So that says that the effect of software on the automotive industry. So there are multiple facets that we see when it comes to the vehicle. So the key challenges which I foresee in the upcoming days is mainly on three fronts. One is on the complexity of technologies which is coming in, be it the electric vehicle, the smart batteries, the swappable solutions, and the connected solutions. So this will, in a way, have a collaborative effort, but there comes an issue of IP ownership also. Because of this collaborative effort, what might happen is there are pool of 5 or 6 companies who come together and bring in some new technologies and new ideas. So at the end, how do they protect their business interest? So that is one of the key challenge I would see because of these new age technologies. The second one, just to take the point from Mr. Balwant, is on the identification of proper IP. So after it is identified, the other challenge is how easy it is for us to get the examiner convinced. Because the current day automotive, if you look at, we have the IC engine-based systems, which in essence we have some established classifications and things in place where we have some ways to convince the examiner. But what comes to it as a challenge is new age technologies, the examiners themselves are yet to learn or to equip themselves with. So there comes a challenge where how best we can convince the examiner because of this software defined vehicles and the connected technologies. So that is another key area. In Sun Mobility per se, we have different solutions which is connected, which is IoT based, and which is also having all the intelligence and electrical related things. So the third thing which I foresee as a challenge is the enforcement of this IP. Considering the software as one of the key part in the vehicle, how do we enforce this IP? Because software is something which we can't easily decipher or easily take out what exactly goes into the vehicle. So considering that point, my view is it's very difficult on the end effect could be the same, or what is it for example, if you take a smart battery solution, the end effect of identifying the state of charge of the battery pack will remain the same. But what goes into the battery pack, what kind of algorithm is there inside, it's not so easy for us to decode it. So if somebody copies it also, it will be even more difficult for us to enforce the IP. So considering all these aspects, some of the points, the other point, I missed out is on the emergence of new age technologies like AI, blockchain, and few other things. So this will also have even more impact when it comes to the identification and protection. So considering all these, there needs to be some reform coming up in place. So these are some of the key challenges which I foresee in the upcoming days when it comes to the electric, connected, and AI-based vehicles.
Thanks, Bala. So from what you said, I picked up 2 threads. One is the patent office itself familiarizing themselves with all the new technologies that's coming up so that we are able to ensure patent quality as we go along in this space. And also I see one trend, that is patents are getting granted much faster than in the past actually. From 5 years it came down to 3 years. We also have instances where it got granted just a year's time frame, which is a very good trend. And I'm sure there is a lot of AI and data science and analytics being used in the patent offices these days in order to accelerate the whole processing. So on the one hand, the patent office is getting into a lot of new technologies, and they're also getting into more AI-enabled processes, which is really reflecting with the speed at which they are processing, also the quality of the granted patents that's coming out. So this is really a very good trend, and I think it's important for us to be supportive to this adoption of these new technologies by the patent office also. We should see ways and means of enabling this. The second is, the other point that he highlighted, if hardware becomes commonly available for all the OEMs, then if the differentiation shifts to the software, how do you enforce that? Because that's the only thing you hold, and that's what is going to differentiate your product with respect to competition. How are you going to effectively protect it and also enforce it? Thanks for bringing that up, Bala. That's a very important aspect to look at today. So with this, we'll move to Bharath, who is from a law firm with us here today. So to you, Bharath.
Thank you. I'm Bharath. I'm based in Chennai. For those who may not understand the context of Chennai and automobiles, if Delhi is Washington, D.C., Bombay is New York, Pune is Oxford, Chennai is Detroit. So Chennai is where about 300 plus automobile companies are based, including Mahindra R&D is there, the TVS and the Ashok Leylands, Yamaha, Yokozuna, Hyundai, Ford, and we can keep going on in terms of how many other OEMs and suppliers who work towards that. Having said that, Madras High Court could have possibly been the first post-trial automobile-related matter, but luckily Bajaj and TVS decided to settle that matter. But we do have one which we are handling for electric vehicle space, but its trial is over, but the final arguments are up. So it's good days, but still sub judice, so we won't get into the matters. From a perspective which all of you just set in, what occurs to me is if 2000 to 2010 was pharmaceutical patent litigation which dominated the IP litigation, 2010 to 2020 would have been telecom. So, and I believe 2020 onwards would be automobile. The reason is, apart from the standard essential patents, I believe a large play would be on data as well. If there is going to be interoperable vehicles speaking to each other and autonomous vehicles which are speaking to satellites and speaking to each other, there would be data sets which would be connected, which one vehicle has to speak to the other vehicle. That's one point. Another point is we've been studying some interesting data points from the US market, where the driver's driving skills and history is shared with the insurance companies. So on a daily basis, if there is data collected on how good a driver you are, your insurance premium will go up or go down based on your driving abilities, whether you are stopping at your signals or overtaking or risking someone else's lives. And last but not the least, as you all rightly say, EV is the future. I would like to touch upon that in the standard essential patents, if you look at the internal combustion engines, you have one or two at best fuels which energize the automobiles, whether it is diesel or petrol or probably LPG, which are all standardized. You might have different brands of HP, Bharat Petroleum, Indian Oil, which fill in. But in electric vehicles, apart from electricity, is also the need for a standardized battery packs. Why we say that is, in Europe, they've already compelled all telecom companies to use Type-C chargers, so that you don't have 3, 4, 5 varieties of chargers. So there would possibly be a time when, or hopefully there should be a time where there are standardized battery packs, and then the suppliers are many, so that no matter who the manufacturer is, whether it is Tata or Bajaj or Mahindra, the energy source, or when you are going on a highway, you can get into any battery pack company, pick up your battery and keep moving on. Rather than having to wait, plug in to charge for super fast 2 hours, because time is of essence and you might just need 5 minutes of battery swap and moving on. So I'll come back to stress that the future of intellectual property litigation might well be automobile in 2020 to 2030.
Yeah. Thanks, Bharath, for bringing this up. I think it's a very clear trend based on what we have seen in pharma and telecom. I think there are a few things that we can learn from there and be proactive about handling these things and mitigating the risk when you get into the auto space. Maybe it could well spill beyond 2030 also with the kind of new technologies coming in now. It's very important for us to keep track of this. And also this debate over standardization versus innovation, where you can actually divergently approach many parallel chemistries of the battery, many different charging solutions, versus standardizing everything so that it becomes a hassle-free experience for the end user. So this is an ongoing debate, how much of standardization versus how much of divergence and innovation we should encourage. So we'll come back to it towards the end of this panel again. Now we will go to Nikhil. Over to you. Sorry to keep you waiting this long. Over to you. Yeah.
So first of all, thanks to Shankar sir that you are setting up, it's fine now? Okay. So thanks to Shankar for, setting up the contest beautifully as always he do. He's expert in that, so that's fine. Then regarding coming to today's topic of challenges in automobile industry, it's a very important topic to discuss because as Shankar and other panelists have mentioned that, it's a transition phase for automobile and various new technologies are coming up. And really, we don't have a clear picture, in terms of what is coming next because so many technologies are coming up and there is a, pipeline of technologies that I can see in the automobile world. So coming to IC engine, like if we talk about IC engine based car, it was developed 150 years around, I guess, back. When I guess it was developed by the Carl Benz, I guess Balwant can confirm that, but yes, it was developed around 150 years and it was a long, development cycle that went for IC engine based vehicles. So the change happened gradually with the time and then it has come to some stage where we see it today. So we say that IC engine based technologies, have come to some kind of maturation stage, like it happens for every technology. That the technology comes or becomes mature after a certain period of time and then the new technology evolves from there. But especially in terms of automobile currently, the most surprising thing is, it's not one technology which is coming up, to replace the old technology. Like EV is of course at the forefront of it for replacing the IC engines, but it is not the only technology which is coming up. We have various technologies like hydrogen is also one of the prime focus of government of India, where we have hydrogen mission we have launched and we have some higher target with respect to 2030. So that is also one of the promising technology can come up in future. Then we have also technologies like we are looking for alternate fuels, where we have a kind of flex fuels we are working on. Then we are working on ethanol based fuels. So these kind of alternate technologies parallelly we are working on. So that is where the challenge comes in. Because when one technology is replacing other, it becomes a kind of smooth process and we have a technology one after the another lined up. But it is not like that in current scenario. Various technologies are lined up parallelly. So you really don't know which technology is going to come in next 5-10 years and which technology will become a commercial success. So at the same time, it's a transition phase for automobile as maybe you can say it's a kind of a spring season for automobile where new leaves are coming up. So that is how it is. And it's also not about just change in prime mover. It's coming almost at every component level. Like if we talk about just a display device, for example, you may be remembering that display used to come with that mechanical kind of dials where you used to have the readings for RPM and fuel level and all. But now if you see the digital display, it is coming in the form of tab. It has everything. Like you can see the maps, you can make the calls. So you can see the sophistication in the technology. So in almost every component has some kind of sophistication. Every component has some kind of softwares. Every component is having some kind of new technologies or parallel technologies which are coming in almost every component. there are different ways of reaching out to the same problem. So there are different solutions being developed parallelly, and at this phase we are not sure on which way will be prominent way, or which will be a commercially successful way of doing it. Maybe after 5 years or 10 years down the line, we will come to know that yes, these technologies are working. But till the time, for as an in-house IP council, it becomes very important that how you strategize your patent portfolio. Because if you look after only one technology, like I am developing EV, we are launching EV technologies, we are launching EV vehicles, so I'll protect only EV. So it's not like that. So there are parallel technologies running up, and you also have a very strong supplier base. Like if Bala is here from Sun Mobility, who is supplying specialized batteries these days. So suppliers are also having the very good technologies. They are having a very good IP base. So from that perspective also, it becomes, from the OEM perspective, it becomes very important which technologies you will protect, which technologies you will outsource. Companies like Bajaj Auto, currently, like most of the, because we also see in market that companies also not clear in terms of which technology they will be developing in-house and which technology they will be outsourcing. Because currently they are trying with everything. Like in Bajaj also we are trying with battery, we are trying with motor and everything. We are trying up. So everybody is doing some kind of research on every component level as well. So companies also not clear, or they don't have any fixed plan as of now. We will be developing these technologies in-house and these technologies will be outsourced. So from that perspective also there is a challenge that which technology will be which technologies will be protecting. From the strategy point of view, I see there is a lot of challenge in terms of what kind of IP you will develop on which technologies specifically. So that is the first challenge that I see. Then second challenge is everybody is behind protecting the patents and protecting their innovations. So in this era, like a lot of patent filing is bound to happen. And with that, we'll have very big portfolio. Even if you see the portfolios of startups, they're good enough. So there are many patents that we can see. So from the OEM perspective, it becomes very important that how you will ensure the infringement risk. So maybe FTOs and all will become a very kind of regular activities, and you have to ensure that you are not infringing any of these patents. So that also will become a challenge. And yes, Bharath has mentioned that litigation is going to increase in at least automobile industry. So if you don't ensure that your technologies are well protected and you are not infringing others' technologies, so otherwise we can see the huge increase in terms of litigation, as we have seen in telecommunication industry or pharma industry previously. So I guess these are the major two challenges that I see.
I think if I can summarize what Nikhil said, 2 points came out very clearly. He said ICE is already kind of saturating, it's hit the plateau. So the number of fresh IP that could get created could be very limited and could be incremental in nature. Whereas if you look at the new technologies, especially around EV, connected and autonomous, if you look at the typical S curve, it's at the S part of it, the middle part, where it's going to be very steep, and IP creation could be 10 times more than what you would expect near the plateauing region. So there is going to be lot of IP creation that's going to happen, that's for sure. So we are all going to be very, very busy, super busy going forward. But for that, we need to quickly familiarize ourselves with all the new technologies. Also look at synergistic opportunities where we can adequately protect the kind of ideas that we are working on. Becomes very important. Second point that he brought out is the strategic aspect of build versus buy. Every OEM wants to be vertically integrated, own everything and try to do everything in-house. Is that the smartest way to do it? If you want to churn out a lot of new products and bring a lot of variants to the customers, maybe you should be wise about what you want to build versus what you want to buy. That means how do you translate that to a win-win IP strategy so that you and your supplier, who is no longer just a supplier, but a co-creator, a co-owner of all the IP, how are you going to have a win-win IP model that encourages your suppliers to come with you with the first technologies, cutting-edge technologies, and work with you to co-create innovative products? So this is a very exciting time to be in the automotive space, especially in an IP role. And one clear takeaway for me after hearing all this is, if somebody is thinking whether AI can handle a lot of this IP management and can replace any IP professionals out here, that's a clear no. But what can happen is, an IP professional who knows how to use AI can replace an IP professional who doesn't know how to use AI. That will bound to happen. So that's one cautious note that I want to tell you before we get into the second round, which is about one idea that really worked for us, like a best practice that we want to share with you all, so that you'll be able to adapt it to your own respective organizations when you go back. So we'll start with Balwant, who is going to share one thing that really worked well for him.
Yeah, so thank you, Shankar. So you gave an analogy of OEM, right? How OEMs are working, right? And things are changing. So I see that, IP councils within the departments, there is a fundamental shift in how we are operating. So earlier it was, we were waiting for ideas to come from engineers, then you will do a patentability, and then you will protect it, and then go for enforcement, all that. So that was a reactive model. But in the changed realities, I think we have to, and what we are also doing, we are also acting like an OEM from an IP perspective, because we have a fundamental responsibility for driving innovation. So how that means that what we are integrating. First of all, we are when we are IP team, when we talk about our company itself, so we are the central team which are connecting all the technical departments. So we can always see that different technical experts, when they are coming from different disciplines, they are able to give a lot of innovative ideas from interdisciplinary side, right? So that's a first thing. Then second thing is also integrating with different suppliers in the IP outside in perspective, and we also need to upskill ourselves to see not only what technology changes are happening, but what all trends are emerging from technology, from business, and from market side, right? So all the disruption. So they also need to understand that business and technology things, right? So what we have done is we have made one team or brought all the different elements together, which we are calling as a combined innovation team. So what does that innovation team include? IP team members, because then they can actually check on the novelty and then IP or the innovation potential. Then there will be certain ideas which will be worth prototyping and bringing it to customers and all that. So then that's the second part of innovation management, that how do we develop those ideas beyond IP and that can be innovated with that. So that's the second team which also working with us. Third part is the strategy team, which also understands the business aspects of it and brings that headquarters strategy of what we want to do, what we want to stay for, let's say for luxury, what does luxury mean for us, EV, and how do we stay ahead in the software space. So all that business angles, so there is a strategy team that works with us. The third thing is also of collaboration, which is with universities, with the startups, because that also you need to really work together. If you really want to develop solutions, you need to also take solutions from that. So this is the way, and as Shankar talked about, the technology integration, where we can also create more time for ourselves if we are able to save times in our efficiency. So in the AI management, AI has a big role to play to improve the efficiencies and to really get insights from millions of documents and things across to see what makes sense out of it. So it's more of a integration in a way that we are working towards. And it can only happen if we all are joining together as a continuous, agile and swarm team that we are really collecting our all brains to work towards, internally as well as externally.
That's a brilliant idea that Balwant shared. He's talking about shifting from a reactive to a proactive model, where the IP team will be at the center driving innovation, bringing the various COEs, the product teams together, having a dedicated innovation team to do quick POCs so that you have enough data to file a patent application, and also having the strategy as part of it so that you know how you can align it and get the business case for it. This is the best time for IP professional to be in the automotive industry, because you'll be the heart of all the exciting developments. This is brilliant. Thanks for sharing that, Balwant. Now let's hear from Jegannathan from Tata Motors.
Yeah. So one thing that we have been fairly successful in doing is, in my previous thing, I was discussing about the risks that the automotive industry is facing, let's say from the high-tech players and various other things. So one thing we have been able to fairly successfully do is to ensure that there is a top-down understanding of the risks that are associated with IP across the company. So that way people are aware of the risks that face with regard to, let's say, IP infringement, what happens? So it is no longer about OEM A versus OEM B. It is about OEM A with, let's say, a chip supplier. Or so now the number of players who we may be infringing on is increasing. So this is, we have been able to sort of get everyone aware that this is the risk that we are dealing with, and we have to be aware of everything. And that way, that awareness is done everywhere, and that way people know what to expect for. And what has followed based on that is that one thing that we have done, I will tell you, is, let's say, contract management. Typically, contract management has been something which has been dealt with by some other department. Now, let's say when it comes to contract management with, let's say, some chip supplier or some ECU supplier or whatever, so that may not have been typically considered to have something, anything related to IP with it. Whereas now with all the high tech, the patents and the everything come into picture, now the IP department also becomes a key player in this thing. Because tomorrow, let's say a communication player is coming and saying that your vehicle is having a patent which is owned by me. Now this patent may be actually there in the vehicle, but it would be implemented in some chip which was supplied by some supplier. So that way it becomes important to know who is the supplier, what kind of agreement we have to have with the supplier. It is no longer, this is the revenue we will share. Whereas there have to be clear-cut cases of indemnification, what happens in so-and-so case. Let's say if there is a licensing model that has to be developed with them, what should be the royalty sharing between the chip supplier and the OEM manufacturer. That kind of understanding has to be developed, and that is something we have been able to do. Yes.
I can relate to everything that he said, because we have also seen many such instances. Suddenly somebody comes up and asks what is there in that supplier agreement, whether there is an IP clause which is sufficiently protecting both interests. So now IP has to look beyond the organization, look at the entire supplier and multiple levels and make sure that IP interest of everybody is protected. Thanks for bringing it up. Thank you so much. Now we will go to Bala. Yeah. Sorry, Balasubramanian. So I know him well. I keep referring as Bala, but please, yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. So on the IP protection side, what we have done is we have multiple innovation tools which Dr. Shankar very well knows of, like TRIS, design thinking, biomimicry. So the essence of this new age technologies will only be taken into account only if we apply these principles. These principles will not just help inventors in identifying it, it also helps them in problem solving. So we have tried out all these things like design thinking, TRIS workshops, and some of these other tools which have really helped us in bringing in a lot more innovative ideas. So inventor get a feel of how the problem can be solved in a systematic approach than bringing in some random ideas here and there. So sometimes if it is not patentable, TRIS will give directions towards making it patentable. So that is one idea I want to talk of. The other thing is with the advent of AI-based tools, the time to protection of ideas has been drastically reduced. Conventionally, if you go to a law firm or any patent draftsman for that matter, they take at least a month's time to have a complete patent specification done. I was recently exploring a couple of tools where all you need to do is just provide the problem statement and your potential solution to solve the particular problem. So you get the complete specification draft done in a jiffy. In a matter of a minute, you get the draft done. All it is required is a little bit of tweaking. Of course, Dr. Shankar had pointed out, like if at all we give a wrong problem statement, then the draft will be a different nature. So we need to ensure from our side that the problem statement and the solution that we provide is proper so that the AI understands it and it puts in multiple embodiments to it. The other aspect is like AI also as a co-inventor. So that tool also suffices this, like if for example, if a particular idea is not having a potential or patentability due to different other prior art, it also gives suggestions in alternative embodiments, like what are the different ways you can look out for. So this is a couple of the tools which I was exploring recently. I think this will drastically help in getting the draft done and also ensuring the timely protection of ideas.
Thanks, Bala. Use of innovation tools like TRIS, biomimicry, design thinking, and also bringing more clarity so that the whole IDF can be processed much faster. Thanks a lot. Thank you. We're running out of time. So, Bharath, over to you. Yeah.
Very quickly, just like any other industry, if, most of us think Wi-Fi is a technology, actually it's an alliance. If you look at Wireless Fidelity Alliance, they have 300 members from the technological fields, right from device manufacturers to software developers as well. Similarly, I believe that the automobile industry, given the interoperability and SEPs who are going to come in, it's important that you as individual players and stakeholders in the industry come together. Of course, you have your own 2 or 3 different associations. But in terms of IP, like the telecom space where some of my colleagues are working on 6 and 7G technologies already and then patent pooling, it's important that what Bala just said, you can't wait for months together before a complete specification is drafted. So you can't wait for your own team to come out with a solution of an existing problem. So if you have a common standard industry forum or an association where you can pool in, I think it's going to be a faster, better solution to the customers or the clients. That's point number 1. Point number 2, with the newer forms of litigation, as in the commercial litigation with the commercial courts, intellectual property division, there are pre-suit mediations as well. Not always you need to go to litigate. Of course, there is a pre-suit mediation where you can probably pick up the phone and speak to each other and ask, would you mind asking for a license? Because everyone knows that there is going to be a litigation, and ex parte orders are slowly being discouraged. Not all matters in patents are ex parte. So I would imagine possibly that licensing, a pre-license, a pre-suit licensing request might be a great start before a litigation is pulled over. So 2 pieces of olive branches for that.
Thanks, Bharat. Patent pools, licensing, that also brings us to another aspect, valuation. With new technologies, how do we train ourselves to value it correctly and get the best out of it? But again, we are running out of time, so we'll go to Nikhil. Yeah.
So basically, as I initially said that, the multiple technologies coming parallelly. So from the IP perspective or in-house IP perspective, it is very important that how you monitor all these technologies and what is happening out there. Because design team is generally busy in designing the vehicles and they are so busy, in their own affairs that they don't get much time in terms of what is happening out there in terms of IP and innovation. So it's very important that you keep on monitoring that what's happening out there in terms of technology in market also, as well as the patent portfolios that other competitors are having. And accordingly strategize your portfolio and decide the directions. Then I would also suggest that maybe having all the eggs in one basket is not appropriate strategy. So maybe you can have patents in different baskets of technologies, and then maybe because we are not clear on future currently, at least what's going to happen and what kind of technologies will be commercial success. So from that perspective, actually during this transition period, at least the IP strategy will play a key role. And in terms of IP team also, like you have different technologies, so you need to have expertise from different technologies. So the team must be diverse. They must be having some different experiences from different domains. So different experience comes together, then maybe we can have a better portfolio as well. So that kind of strategies also need to be developed along with, as Bala said, like we need to have the use of any tools. So basically it's about how efficiently, because everybody has got the same time, but how you efficiently and strategically use that time for IP creation. That's going to be very important, and that is how it is. Like maybe that is.
I think what Nikhil said is very important. See, gone are those days when we can clearly visualize what technology is going to lead and how do we build that portfolio and be ready for that. But what he's telling is we can't do that today. We have to be humble enough to accept that fact and have different eggs in one basket and have different baskets. So that's a minimum thing we can do. Do enough research, POC, create IP, build portfolios for multiple technologies and be ready. Once there is a market pull, then bring that basket out, convert that into product and take it to market. But creating IP is the minimum that we have to do to secure our future, because we honestly don't know which technology is going to win. So thanks for, this is a very nice way to wrap up this discussion. Finally converging on to a strategy for building a patent portfolio which will secure our future. That's great. I think this is a very insightful discussion. I learned a lot. I have 4 or 5 pages of notes. I'm going to summarize this and share it out with all of you. Just please stay connected with GIPC. We'll have a very crisp summary of our discussion today. Okay? And that, I'm sorry that we are not giving you time to share your thoughts. I'm sure we will have many more insights from this side. Why don't you just make use of emails to have a continuous discussion around this topic. This is going to be very important. Dr. Agarwal is here. He will give us a way how to carry forward this discussion that we have initiated today. I want all of you to stay connected and keep sharing ideas, because the answer doesn't lie with any one of us. It's only in the collective wisdom we are able to crack this. Finally, if we crack this for India, we'll become global leaders. This kind of mobility we are in, it's a truly global opportunity. It's the right thing for the environment, because we are talking about sustainable mobility. So that's the reason why we should all stay connected. Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Agarwal, for giving this chance for us to brainstorm on this such an important topic on the GIPC platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I fully agree with Dr. Shankar that today this automobile, particularly in the context of the climate change and the AI, these two aspects are so much affecting this automobile industry that if GIPC can come out with a collective wisdom, something in concrete, I think it can be IP for India. IP for India, which we can disseminate to the rest of the world. So Bharath at 2047 is looking for that kind of intellect from our country. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for your thoughtful engagement. So let the ideas discussed here inspire innovation in your field, and extending our sincere thanks to our the panelists for their time and expertise. In fact, your contributions have made this session really, really impactful. And thank you especially to our moderator, Dr. Shankar, for his adept handling of this session. Thank you so much, sir. And now I'd request our founder director, Dr. D.P. Agarwal, to please felicitate our moderator, sir, first. And also the speakers for the session, Mr. Balwant Rawat, Head IP Mercedes Benz India, Mr. Jegannathan S.
Both Mr. Dr. Venugopal and Rawat, when we have a very specific workshop on automobiles, like we did in August 19th in Pune, Dr. Rawat was there, and then once we did in automobiles Chennai also, Dr. Venu was there. So on certain specific aspect now, GIPC is also taking up industry-wide and certain specific topic-wise. So we are grateful to all.
Mr. Jegannathan S, Deputy General Manager, IPR Lead, Tata Motors. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Balasubramanian L, Deputy General Manager, IP Management, Sun Mobility. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Mr. M.S. Bharath, Founder, Managing Partner, Kria Law. Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a pleasure having you in the program. And Mr. Nikhil Dattawadkar, IP Strategist and Manager, Bajaj Auto. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Would request you to please come forward for a group picture.